How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here. So you can't go bald if you have no hair, which is the perfect time to play some more Gwent. And in this video, we're going to look at my top favorite cards, my top 5 favorite cards in the current game at the minute. Okay, so let's have a look, shall we? So the Harpy is a card which really excited me when I first saw it, and I was really hoping it wouldn't kill the unit that it triggers, and it doesn't. So it's a 3 strength bronze. Triggers the death wish of adjacent units, and I really get excited by this because there's a lot of possibilities. There's quite a few death wish units available. Now, this list might have been a little not what you expected. So I really like this card. It's in the list, but it's not a good card. But it does excite me, and it's one of my favorites. I do like using it with the Harpy eggs, using it with the cow and the golems, and just having a lot of fun with it. They've kind of reduced its value now. You can't really get too many lucky harpies spawning, which spawns something else like you used to be able to do. And I really think they need to pull a clan on crate Warcrier, if that's it, the Warcrier card from Skellige. They need to pull that on this card, meaning that it's 7 strength, and for every unit that it does trigger, it goes down by 2 or something. So that it's not just a worthless card if you don't have any death wishes on the board, which is, you know, they're like 2 strength, 1 strength, there's 1 6 strength golem, so they need to do something with it, because no one's taking this. You might as well just take the Seleno Harpies and use them for carryover mostly. But I do like the idea of triggering death wishes. It just inherently has a lot of setup, well, has some setup play which can be disturbed. And the fact that it's a 3 strength unit all the time just means that it's really bad. But it is an interesting card which I really like a lot. Ithleen is one which is quite exciting to me. Now, she is quite powerful, I think, anyway. She's a gold card, 2 strength, and she's disloyal. The 2 strength is relatively low of a cost, really, to get this ability, which is to play a bronze special from your deck. You spawn another copy of it and play it again, and then shuffle the others back. So you get to play 2 bronze specials, one after the other. Now, I guess one of the cravats is it has to be from your deck. So if you have to know which one you're going for with a preordained strategy, or just try and, you know, hold back and not use everything yet, and just use what you can when you decide you want to use it. But she opens up a lot of possibilities. You know, there's some very strong combos here. 2 strength is very minuscule, so you could play 2 swallow potions, which should be quite decent. 2 Thunderbolt potions, that's 22 value when you take away her 2. 2 Lacerates could devastate your opponent. You know, you got some very good options here, which could really get you a lot of strength for a gold card. Like, hopefully in the future, we'll see some nice combos with other particular cards, which kind of just multiply that effect a little bit. So one combo which obviously springs to my mind is Skjal plus Ithleen, which is not inherently possible, although you could renew Ithleen to do this. Place Skjal down, double swallow potion him, for example, and you've got a pretty hefty Skjal, which is base strength for another round, maybe, you know. But hopefully we'll get some combos like this in the future for Scoia'tael, you know, within their own faction. And yeah, potential's really nice, and I do like the idea of doing this. So Summoning Circle, I do really like this card. It's not always a choice that you will take, but if ever you want to, you know, roll the dice and just have a bit of fun, this is the card that I've wanted in the game for a very, very long time. It allows you to mix factions together quite well. So you spawn a base copy of the last enemy your opponent played from their hand. The cravat is that it has to be played from their hand. So if they use Owl's Double Cross, it wouldn't count at all. You don't get Owl's Double Cross because that's not a unit. So, you know, things like Operator, which are often played from Owl's Double Cross, you can't do yourself. Neneke, possibly, you know, they might not play it from their hand. But otherwise, you know, the value of this card is, you know, it's going to be another gold. It's going to be, I mean, it's going to be another silver or another bronze that the opponent's played. You're just going to have to roll the dice on what matchup you're going to play, what card you want to go for. When you see the matchup, you can start evaluating what card you want to go for. But it's always going to be a really interesting, and I think it's just a fun card, and there are some really nice combinations you can do with it. You know, you can produce another Reaver Hunter if you're building that kind of deck. You can produce another Queen's Guard if you want to. If you're playing that kind of deck, you could go for a Necker Warrior if the opponent plays one. And, you know, there's a lot of options with that. And so, you know, it opens up a lot of doors. And I really like that. I've been wanting this card in the game for a long time. But again, you don't always choose it. And this guy looks like a pencil. But I really like the card. And it's just outright fun to play, I think. So I like it a lot. So the Water Hag, and not necessarily just the Water Hag, but mages in general, they are such a great addition to the game. Now, most of the time they are pretty much an auto-include, a lot of the times, because they're a body, which is great, so you can try and get them out. I use marching orders a lot in my monster deck to get Water Hag with great consistency. With things like Ragnarok and Drought being, you know, not as prevalent as they used to be, but, you know, they'll come, and if you get caught off guard by a Ragnarok or Drought and you can't clear it, you're in for a world of hurt there, really. So these guys are pretty much auto-include, but I really like their options. It's so good. And most of them, if not all of them, are really well tailored. The special cards that they've chosen for each faction's version of their mage card, which is kind of what we're coining these now, are really well tailored. Lacerate is so good with monsters, I find, because you're placing weathers down a lot of the time, and you're kind of forcing them onto one row, and they'll move onto that one row and clear that row because it's easier to do, and then Lacerate becomes really, really powerful. Clear Skies is a great option, like I mentioned. Now, rain is something which is probably one of the worst weathers in the game, and it's unfortunate that it's not a frost or a fog. I would really have loved it to be a fog, because I play a fog-lit deck, and I need all the fog I can get. But rain is there, and it's an option. It's unfortunately the worst, but I mean, other mages have really good ones, like GREMIST. Again, he's another type of mage, and he's in a perfect one. Blood-Curdling Roar is the other option. It's such a great choice for Skellige, because they have 1 strength Priestess of Freya and really low strength Sigurdrifa and stuff. So Blood-Curdling Roar is amazing, and they do fog, which again, you know, might not be great for Skellige, but it's a fog, and it's allowed, you know. It's decent. And Deathmold, you know, Alzor's Thunder is a nice one to have. So I think they've really did a great job with these 3 strength, 4 strength for Squirtels mage cards. I really like them, and I think they hopefully should stay. But they're very necessary with Ragnarok and Drought possible plays. So yeah, I like them, really good. I may have just stuck this in the runner-up because it doesn't really work. If it worked, I might really enjoy it a lot. And it kind of also falls a little bit into the Blue Stripes Commando, because they kind of work a little bit in tandem a little bit. But it's a 3 strength melee unit, bronze, and it boosts all units with the same power as this unit by 1 wherever they are. So, you know, you put it down and loads of things that are 3 now become 4. And then you place another one, they all become 5. You place another one, they all become 6. And you've got some pretty nice strength throughout the entire deck now. Using Foltest, you know, a lot of things become 7. Including these guys. And these guys will come out automatically whenever you play one of these. So you'll get, you know, decent strength on the board, even though it's only 3. But it's a lot of setup, and in the later game, it just falls apart. I like the concept, I do. I really do like the concept. Now, there's limited stuff you can do with it. You know, I've tried Quenning them, so he starts at 5, and then taking loads of 5 strength minions, so they boost them to 6, then 7, then 8. But it's really kind of limited, and the whole thing falls apart, like I mentioned. Like, after round 1, these guys will go into the graveyard. You can't use Nenike to shuffle them back and reuse them because they lose their buff. And then everything you've got, nothing is 3 strength anymore, everything is more. If those were base strength, would that be too powerful? I don't know, because, I mean, that means that they would buff up to, say, 6 base strength, and that you might be able to shuffle these back into the deck and then play other 6 strength stuff, and they would come back out again, so you can get double use. You know, and the trio idea would make more sense. It's an interesting idea. I do like it, but it's not one of my favorites because it just doesn't work. And there may be others. I mean, I like the Harpies. They didn't work either, but that kind of move, that kind of ability excited me when I saw it, and it still kind of does. This one, it doesn't excite me to the same levels, but I feel like I've seen what it can do now. If they tweak it, the base strength, I think it'd be way better. Let's see. CERYS. CERYS is a card which I do enjoy playing with. I like playing with CERYS quite a lot. Now, she can become 7 when you use King BRAN. And basically, she's got a counter of 4, and it decreases every time you resurrect a unit. And then when it gets to 0, she resurrects herself for free. She's not as strong as maybe she used to be, but she sees the board a lot more often. And the thing I like about this is that it kind of ties in with the Queen's Guard aspect very, very well. You know, using the operator, you can get CERYS out every single turn. First turn's a bit more difficult, but there are ways. And yeah, so she ties in really well, even though it didn't look like she was going to. And I really love the counter. You know, the counter actually ticks down. So when you resurrect the Queen's Guard, it goes 3, 2, 1, 0. Then she comes out. It's really cool. And yeah, she's just a really nice card to complement the Queen's Guard. And I get excited about this because there's not many cards which have counters. I think Priscilla has one, but this CERYS is an actual useful one. But, you know, this might open up a little bit more, but I really like this, and she resets and stuff as well, and she carries over if you don't manage to resurrect her. She's a nice fun card and definitely one of my favourites. PHILIPPA EILHART is a card which is not amongst my favourite, although I do like her ability a lot. I think it thematically works with her. She's a very nice card to have, and especially good that it's beginner friendly. You get it for beginner starter decks. PHILIPPA EILHART is a card which is not amongst my favourites, but she's in the runner-up place because she's very nice. I like the thematics of her. She's very, you know, fits her character quite well, and the 5-4-3-2-1, there is some strategy around it, and it's a beginner card, and it's very powerful. So I do like it. Not in my top list because, you know, it does what it says it's going to do. It's a kind of a 5-4-3-2-1 damage type of thing, but it's a little twist that it can't hit the same unit, and, you know, it's like a chain lightning. It's an interesting one. So for runners up, the first one I'd like to mention is BRAN. I don't see her very much, and she's got an obvious play with Queen's Guard, for example, but I really like the idea, and the fact that she's gold and disloyal kind of gets negated because she starts killing herself, and she adds to the Berserker, who gets buffed for anyone that's wounded, including golds, and this kind of fits into that. But, you know, so I like the idea of taking cards from your opponent's graveyard, putting them in yours, and she's an interesting card that she also damages herself and other people, so you can get some decent value out of her. It's an interesting idea, but she didn't quite make the cut. She's not my favourite, but I really do appreciate and find an interest in her, which is nice. Man, this card is... I love this card. I don't know if it's underappreciated by a lot of people. I think some people are starting to understand how good this card can be. Now, I tried to build a deck, you know, utilising armour, utilising this card. It doesn't really work now. You struggle to get strength, but this is a 5 strength bronze card, so you can have 3 of these. At the start of your turn, if it's not armoured, boost this unit by 2 and add 2 armour to it. Now, I discovered this card like on the first day of the PTR, and I was amazed at how good it actually worked. It counters so much stuff. It's amazing. So, it counters all weather types. Apart from maybe drought. It kind of does if it's the only unit on a row, but I'll explain that in a minute. But so it's 5 strength, and then it will gain armor at your next turn, 2, and anytime that armor is removed, it'll gain another 2 strength and another 2 armor, so it can keep pushing up if you can keep removing the armor, and weather does that for you. Now, you can't play weather on your own side anymore, which is a bit of a nerf to this card at least, but yeah, so it's immune to Skellige Storm, Ragnarok. If it's the highest strength unit on the board, it will just absorb it all and get stronger. Drought, it does, like, you know, take the hit and get stronger, but then if it's not the lowest unit on the board, it won't keep taking the hits, which is an issue. But if it's the only unit on that row, then it will just keep taking the hits and keep getting stronger, which is amazing. You know, it's immune to frost, it's immune to fog, it's immune to rain if it's the lowest unit. If it's the highest unit for fog, it's immune to Yennefer, it's immune to like a lot of pings from mangonels and warlong ships and these types of things that do random damage, provided it doesn't get hit too much. It's such a good card. I think, you know, I think any Northern Realms deck that is worried about frost and stuff, you stick this guy in, it'll be really good. But I don't think you can build a whole deck around this guy. He's just definitely going to be one of those cards that you stick in. I don't know if there's really many ways to utilize him yourself. Like, there are guys that can remove the armor, and maybe you could take a lacerate or something, and, you know, place some of these on a row and lacerate them to boost them up higher. It doesn't seem worth it. And there are guys that can remove the armor and gain buff for it, and then they can get the armor back. But it's not really a worthwhile archetype unless a lot of bronzes you've now taken for an archetype that doesn't work very well. But it's such an amazing card. I really like it. It's so humble as well, just being a bronze card. And I hope more people discover it. You know, when I play my fog deck, this card really has to make me think I have to start moving this away from weather. I have to drown them out of weather. It's so cool. I love it.